Millionaire in the Bible teaches you how to make money, escape the rat race with wisdom. What if your job title doesn't define your worth? What if success is not something you chase, but something you become? In this video, we take a deep dive into a new way of seeing purpose, wealth, and self-worth, through the lens of timeless psychological wisdom. Inspired by the teachings of King Solomon, we'll explore how freedom begins not with money or achievement, but with clarity and inner strength. Whether you're feeling stuck in the rat race or silently questioning the life you've built, this video invites you to pause, reflect, and realign. You're not here to perform. You're here to live with meaning. Stay with us, because in the next few minutes, we won't just talk about success, we'll redefine it from the inside out. When asking the right question matters more than finding the answer. Have you ever stopped for a moment and asked yourself what you are truly chasing? Not what the world says you should want, but what your soul quietly longs for when no one is watching. Most of us wake up each day with a silent pressure pressing on our chest. We rush through the morning, stare at a screen, answer emails, complete tasks, and then repeat it all over again tomorrow. And somehow, we are still haunted by a sense of emptiness. What if the problem isn't your job or your income? What if the deeper issue is that you have been asking the wrong questions all along? Instead of asking how can I make more money, perhaps the question should be what kind of life do I truly want to build? Instead of asking how can I become successful, maybe ask what does success mean to me and who told me to believe that? King Solomon was not admired simply because of his wealth but because he asked for wisdom. He did not pray for riches or status but for the ability to discern what truly mattered. That decision shaped not only his reign but his legacy. In today's world where metrics define our worth and speed is confused with progress, we often forget to pause and reflect. Self-awareness is not a luxury, it is survival. Without it we are stuck living a life that doesn't belong to us, chasing goals that were never ours to begin with. The journey toward financial freedom or emotional healing begins with the courage to ask deeper questions. Not surface-level inquiries but the kind that echo through the chambers of your heart. Are you exhausted because you are working too hard or because you are working for something that does not align with your soul? Are you really unmotivated or have you simply lost sight of why you started? These questions are uncomfortable because they strip away illusion. But in their discomfort lies truth. And only from truth can healing begin. This is not a story about money. It is about clarity. About waking up to the life you are living and daring to ask if it is really yours. Wisdom, the key that unlocks the door to lasting prosperity. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to build wealth that lasts while others lose it as quickly as they gain it? What separates temporary success from true and lasting prosperity? The answer lies not in luck or hard work alone but in the presence of wisdom. King Solomon was not the richest man in the Bible by accident. He did not inherit his greatness through gold or military power. His true strength was his ability to see beyond the surface of things. He asked for wisdom, not wealth, and what followed was abundance in every form. The world may call that coincidence, but ancient texts call it cause and effect. In his writings, Solomon speaks of wisdom as a living force. With wisdom come riches, honor, and righteousness. These are not shallow rewards. They are the natural outcomes of a life guided by discernment. Wisdom is not a set of facts. It is the capacity to perceive what others overlook, to see patterns in chaos, to act with intention rather than impulse. Most people seek money thinking it will fix the discomfort they feel inside. But money without wisdom only magnifies the chaos. It gives you more choices but not the ability to choose well. That is why many who come into sudden wealth end up more lost than before. They have resources but no compass. True prosperity does not just mean having more. It means understanding what to do with what you already have. It is the ability to turn little into enough and enough into abundance. It is not determined by income but by insight. Wisdom is also what connects wealth to righteousness. It teaches that how you earn and use money matters just as much as having it. Wealth built without integrity collapses. But wealth born of wisdom and justice stands even through storms. So when you find yourself chasing success, ask yourself what foundation you are building on. Are you running faster or running smarter? Are you acting with clarity or just reacting from fear? Solomon reminds us that prosperity is not about chasing more. It is about becoming someone who can be trusted with more. And that change begins with the quiet, steady pursuit of wisdom. True wealth does not just live in your wallet but in how you live. We often measure success by how much we earn, by the size of our bank accounts or the possessions we own. But what if wealth is not only about accumulation? What if the truest form of wealth has more to do with how we live than what we have? King Solomon did not speak of money as the end goal. Instead, he described lasting wealth as something rooted in wisdom, honor, and righteousness. In his view, wealth was not a number but a reflection of how aligned your actions were with your values. When your life is rooted in wisdom, the material rewards that follow are simply byproducts, not the purpose. There is a kind of poverty that has nothing to do with money. It is the emptiness we feel when we are disconnected from purpose, when our days are filled but not fulfilling. It is possible to have everything society praises and still feel broken inside. Because without inner clarity and direction, success can feel like a burden rather than a blessing. Real wealth is the ability to wake up each morning and feel at peace with the life you are living. It is measured by the quality of your relationships, your sense of purpose, your emotional health, and the consistency between your values and your choices. These things cannot be bought, but they can be built. Solomon teaches that wisdom is what allows you to use wealth with purpose. Money without wisdom can lead to arrogance, conflict, and isolation. But when you lead with understanding, money becomes a tool for service, for freedom, for creating beauty and meaning. So when you reflect on your own version of wealth, ask yourself not just how much you have but how you live. Are your choices aligned with what matters most to you? Are you building a life that reflects who you are, or one that hides who you are? Because the greatest wealth is not found in your wallet. It is found in the quiet confidence that your life is deeply your own. When a stable job is no longer a safe haven. For generations we were taught that security comes from a steady job. Work hard, get a degree, find a company, stay loyal, and you will be rewarded. But the world has changed, and so must the way we think about work and safety. A stable job is not always stable. Companies change, markets crash, economies shift, and even the most dedicated employee can be let go without warning. Relying on one paycheck as your only safety net is like walking a tightrope with no balance pole. One wrong move and everything can collapse. King Solomon challenged the idea that wealth comes from labor alone. He did not build his kingdom on wages but on wisdom. He understood that true security comes not from what you earn but from what you know and how you apply it. Wisdom creates options. It gives you the ability to adapt to change rather than fear it. The promise of a stable job often comes with a hidden cost. Many trade their time, energy, and even identity for a paycheck. Over time they become disconnected from their creativity, from their dreams, and even from themselves. They begin to believe that their value is measured by their productivity. But you are more than what you produce. The modern world demands a new kind of resilience. Not just the ability to endure pressure but the skill to evolve. To think creatively, to build multiple sources of income, to learn continuously, and to define success on your own terms. Stability is not found in staying the same. It is found in the ability to move with clarity when change arrives. So the question is not how do I find a job that lasts forever. The question is how do I become the kind of person who can thrive in any situation. Solomon's wisdom was never about escaping work. It was about elevating the way we work. It was about choosing purpose over pressure, clarity over confusion, and vision over fear. And in that space, true Freedom begins to grow. 4 steps to build financial freedom based on ancient wisdom. Financial freedom is not a myth, and it is not reserved for the lucky few. It is a path that can be walked by anyone who chooses to learn and apply the right principles. King Solomon did not stumble into wealth. He followed a pattern guided by timeless wisdom. That pattern still works today, and it begins with 4 key steps. The first step is to seek knowledge. Wisdom grows through learning. Invest in your mind as much as you would invest in your bank account. Read, study, ask questions, and challenge your assumptions. The more you understand about how money works and how people think, the more prepared you are to make wise decisions. The second step is diligence. Solomon valued action rooted in discipline. It is not about working more hours but about working with intention. Diligence is showing up consistently and creating value, even when no one is watching. It is the difference between short bursts of effort and steady progress. The third step is diversification. Relying on a single income stream leaves you exposed to risk. Solomon taught the value of spreading resources across different fields. Create multiple sources of income. Think in terms of assets, not just effort. Learn to make money work for you rather than always trading your time for money. The fourth step is growth. Wealth is not meant to be hoarded. It is meant to be cultivated. Invest in what multiplies. That could be a business, a skill, a partnership, or even an idea. Growth requires patience, but it brings rewards that last longer than temporary gain. These 4 steps are not formulas for quick riches. They are habits of the wise. Each one invites you to think long-term, to act with clarity, and to build not just income but stability and purpose. Solomon's wisdom reminds us that freedom is not found in escaping responsibility but in embracing the right kind. You are not powerless. You are not behind. You simply need a path that honors both our intelligence and your potential. And that path begins here. Freedom is not in how much money you have but in your power to choose your life. Most people chase money because they believe it will bring freedom. The ability to travel, to quit a job, to live without stress. But real freedom does not begin with a paycheck. It begins with the ability to choose. And that choice is built not just with income but with awareness. King Solomon understood that wealth alone could not free a person who was still a prisoner to fear or confusion. Freedom without wisdom leads to recklessness. But when wisdom shapes your life, freedom becomes more than comfort. It becomes clarity. It becomes purpose. The modern world tells us that more is always better. More money, more status, more achievement. But chasing more without knowing why leads to exhaustion. You work harder and harder trying to outrun a feeling that never quite goes away. That is not freedom. That is quiet despair. True freedom is the ability to align your life with your values. To say yes when something is right and no when it is not. It is the ability to make choices not from desperation but from vision. You may not be able to control every circumstance, but you can always choose how you respond, who you become, and what you build. Freedom is not about escaping work. It is about choosing work that honors who you are. It is about using money as a tool to support a life you believe in, not a life you feel trapped in. Solomon's why. Stom reminds us that external wealth means little if you are still lost internally. So ask yourself, where does your idea of success come from? Is it truly yours or something you inherited without questioning? Are you building a life that reflects who you want to be, or one that only impresses others? Because the richest life is not always the loudest. Sometimes it is the quiet, steady life that reflects deep intention. A life where every choice is your own. That is freedom. And it is closer than you think. Act from within, not waiting for the world to give you permission to begin. There is a quiet trap many fall into, the belief that they need something external to begin. A sign, an opportunity, a perfect moment or someone to validate their dreams. So they wait. They wait for clarity, for approval, for the fear to disappear. But waiting becomes a habit and eventually a prison. King Solomon was not a man who waited for circumstances to align. He acted with intention shaped by wisdom. He knew that life does not reward hesitation. It rewards vision and courage. The longer you wait for the world to give you permission, the longer you postpone your own growth. The truth is, you do not need the world to understand you before you begin. You do not need every detail figured out. You only need the willingness to take one honest step in the direction of what matters. Action creates clarity, not the other way around. Many people never move because they are afraid of being judged, of failing, of getting it wrong. But what they miss is that inaction is its own form of failure. When you ignore your inner voice, you lose a part of yourself. And that loss accumulates until life feels distant and meaningless. You are not behind. You are not too late. But you are responsible. Responsible for what you build, for what you protect, and for what you become. The turning point is not when the world gives you a green light. It is when you decide that your life is worth showing up for, even if no one else claps. Solomon's wisdom teaches that purpose is not something you wait to find. It is something you create through living intentionally. Through choosing meaning over comfort, through listening to your soul. Even when the world is loud. So stop waiting. The door will not open unless you knock. Your future will not start unless you show up. You are not waiting for the world. The world is waiting for you. Psychology is not for fixing but for understanding and loving yourself. There is a common misunderstanding that psychology is only for people who are broken, for those who cannot cope or who are falling apart. This belief keeps many from seeking insight, when in truth psychology is not about fixing people. It is about understanding the human experience and learning how to live with greater awareness. King Solomon was not a therapist in the modern sense, but he was deeply attuned to the workings of the mind and heart. His writings are filled with reflections on human behavior, on the nature of wisdom, and on how emotions shape choices. He knew that the outer world is a reflection of the inner world and that lasting change begins from within. Psychology is the study of how we think, feel, and act. But more than that, it is the invitation to look inward, to explore the patterns that guide our lives and to meet ourselves with honesty. It is no weakness to seek understanding. It is strength. It is the choice to live intentionally rather than reactively. When we misunderstand psychology, we limit ourselves. We pretend to be fine when we are hurting. We avoid emotions instead of listening to them. We chase productivity while ignoring pain. But avoiding what is real does not make it go away. It only drives it deeper. To embrace psychological growth is to say, I am worth knowing. It is to believe that our internal world deserves care just as much as our careers, relationships, or goals. When we understand ourselves, we begin to make choices that are aligned, not forced. We stop repeating patterns that hurt us. We start healing. Solomon's wisdom encourages reflection. He invites us to know our own hearts, to seek insight, and to lead with understanding. That is the essence of psychology. Not to fix what is wrong but to uncover what is true. So let us release the shame around emotional struggle. Let us replace judgment with curiosity and fear with compassion. Because knowing yourself is not a luxury. It is the foundation for a meaningful life. Awakening, and you will see money is no longer a haunting burden. There comes a moment when you begin to realize that money is not just a number or a goal. It is a mirror. It reflects your fears, your beliefs, and your deepest assumptions about what is possible. For many people, money becomes a source of constant stress, not because of how little or how much they have, but because of what they think it means. We live in a world where money is often tied to identity. You are your income, your title, your possessions. If you do not earn enough, you feel like you are falling behind. If you earn a lot, you fear Losing it. This relationship with money can become a quiet weight, a constant pressure that shapes your decisions without you even noticing. King Solomon teaches that money should not rule your life. It is a tool, not a master. His wisdom reframes wealth as something that follows purpose, not something to chase at the expense of peace. And your self-worth is no longer tied to your bank account. You begin to make decisions from clarity, not from fear. Awakening is the moment you step back and ask what money really means to you. Is it safety, power, validation, freedom? When you identify the story you are telling yourself about money, you begin to loosen its grip. You begin to reclaim your agency. This does not mean rejecting wealth. It means redefining it. Seeing money as a resource, not an identity. Using it to support what matters most, not to compensate for what feels missing. Awakening does not remove the need for money, but it removes its power to define your value. When you are no longer haunted by the need to prove yourself through earning, you can finally breathe. You can focus on building a life that feels whole, not just one that looks successful. You begin to ask better questions, not just how do I make more, but why do I want more and what will it cost me? Solomon's wisdom calls us to seek peace before profit, to pursue meaning before status. When you awaken to that truth, money becomes lighter, easier to hold, less of a burden and more of a blessing. Don't look for a job, look for yourself. From a young age we are taught to look outward. To search for the right job, the right degree, the right title. We are told that our value is something to be rendered through performance, something we must chase until we finally become enough. But what if the most important thing you are meant to find was never outside of you? King Solomon did not become wise by following the crowd. He became wise by asking for the one thing that could not be taken from him. Wisdom. He did not ask for position or wealth. He asked for the ability to see clearly. And that vision changed everything. Many people live their entire lives trying to fit into a mold that was never made for them. They follow rules that do not resonate and pursue goals they never questioned. And then wonder why success feels empty. The truth is, you cannot build a meaningful life by ignoring your own voice. Looking for a job is not wrong. But if you never stop to look for yourself, you risk building a life that is impressive on the outside but disconnected on the inside. You risk achieving everything except peace. When you begin to look inward, you discover something powerful. That you are not just a worker or a title or a role. You are a mind, a heart, a soul. You have wisdom within you, the ability to create bus and lead. The purpose of life is not just to perform. It is to become. To remember who you are and live from that place with intention. Solomon's path was not just about leadership. It was about inner clarity. He ruled wisely because he first ruled himself. That is the greatest work. And it is available to everyone. So stop waiting for the world to tell you who you are. Stop letting your job define your worth. Start listening. Start remembering. Because you are not here to play a part. You are here to be whole. The job you need most is not out there. It is the one where you return to yourself. You have walked through 10 layers of wisdom inspired by Solomon, not just to rethink money but to remember yourself. This journey was never about rejecting success or ambition. It was about redefining what those words mean to your soul. The world will always offer you noise, titles, comparisons, expectations. But your inner world offers you something greater: stillness, truth, purpose. So pause. Not to stop moving but to start moving with clarity. Let wisdom guide your steps, not pressure. Let peace become your compass, not fear. You do not need to chase a life that looks good. You are worthy of building a life that feels right. And in that quiet decision, to choose truth over illusion, you become truly rich. Begin again. From within.